Breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report. Presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Thursday and Monday during the Viking season, other than bye weeks, but we're back after the bye by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2024 GMC Acadia and Sierra on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is Sam Bird, does a great job getting the show together. And Sam, this is a big game coming up. Big game. This is a big game. Now, I would think that the league office in New York and the networks, the TV networks, are probably a little disappointed that they didn't perhaps foresee what a big game this is.
Sure.
And the fact that it's a Sunday noon start, if they had a crystal ball back in May when they finalized the schedule and they said, oh, the Vikings are going to be 5-0 and the Lions are going to be 4-1 and they're going to have the two best records in the NFC and be playing for first place in the division and in the entire conference with the number one seed, I think that this game may have been a primetime affair, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you never know. And so as it turned out, that's what we're at now, and a huge game on Sunday. Back in the day, in my GM and team president days, we used to call these swing games.
Really? Why swing games?
Swing games, because if you're playing a team in your division, and especially if the team right on your heels, so if the Vikings win on Sunday, go to 6-0, and the Lions fall to 4-2, two-game lead, plus a head-to-head win in hand. If the Vikings lose, both teams are 5-1, and the Lions have the head-to-head edge, so they technically vault into first place. So consequently, we call it a swing game. It's a two-game swing, one way or the other. Either the teams are tied or the Vikings are 2 games ahead, and really it's almost 2.5 games ahead. So just a huge game on Sunday at US Bank Stadium. Vikings get them at home first. That's a nice advantage. The crowd is sure to be amped up. And Kevin O'Connell talked about that in his media session yesterday, and he is definitely going to be in favor of some big-time crowd noise, as was the case the last time the Vikings were at home. Seems like a long time ago when they beat down the Houston Texans, and the crowd noise contributed to all kinds of false starts, mistakes by C.J. Stroud. Now, Jared Goff's a little more of a wily veteran, and he's got a great offensive line. We'll see. They have handled it in the past. They've beaten the Vikings 3 straight times. But last year, the 2 wins were after Kirk Cousins went down, of course. And so they beat Nick Mullins, who handed them 6 interceptions in those 2 games, which kind of helped the cause, even though he threw for an average of about 400 yards in the 2 games. So the Vikings found a way to get guys open, and certainly Justin Jefferson had big games against the Lions. The last 3 times he's faced them have been huge games for Jefferson. He has had yardage totals, Sam, of 192, 141, and 223 in the last 3 meetings with Detroit. And Detroit may be missing Carlton Davis, their best corner. Their rookie corner, Terrion Arnold, had 8 penalties, 5 pass interference calls through the first 4 games. Could be a repeat of that Houston game when they were holding and interfering with Jefferson all over the field, and he drew about 5 penalties in that game. But it does shape up as a really exciting game. The Lions, coming off a blowout of Dallas, just demolished the Cowboys 47-9, ran for 184 yards. Goff, effective throwing the ball, and he had some good success against the Vikings last year in those 2 games. But this is a different Vikings team.
This is. Absolutely it is.
You talk about Jonathan Grenard, you talk about Andrew Van Ginkel. Pat Jones is a different player this year. He's been fighting a little shoulder injury, but did get back to practice on a limited basis on Thursday as we're recording, which is a good sign. And then Aaron Jones, another guy, very important guy to this team, and Blake Cashman, 2 guys that have been on the injury report. Cashman showed up this week with a turf toe that he sustained in London, and Jones has been dealing with a what they thought originally was a hip, they called it, but it turned into a hamstring. So Aaron Jones, and he had a hamstring problem last year, apparently on the other leg. But they need Aaron Jones. They need all hands on deck in this game. I think if Cashman's out, that's a huge loss. He's their leading tackler. He's got 5 passes defense. He's the guy that can perhaps cover Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield, help with Sam Laporta, their great tight end, and also is a great blitzer. Had a number of quarterback hits this year, a sack. Blake Cashman, I think, is having a Pro Bowl season. If Cashman and Aaron Jones are out, I think that's problematic for the Vikings.
Problematic at best. I agree with that 100%. I mean, you can see even with Cam Akers rejoining the team via trade, I think Jones has been such an impactful player on this offense that when he's not on the field, I think the team can definitely notice the difference, and certainly the defenses of the other teams notice that difference as well.
Yeah, now Ty Chandler had a good game against the Lions in the second game last year. He rushed for 89 yards, so perhaps he'll have some heavier duty even if Jones can make it back. As I said, he was back at practice on a limited basis, which is a good sign today. This is Thursday. Got a couple more days to get ready for Sunday, and we'll see how it shakes out. But let's, as we kind of preview this game, let's first of all hear from Kevin O'Connell and Dan Campbell, the 2 head coaches. But first, here's Kevin.
Really excited for a heck of a challenge for our team, NFC North divisional opponent at home. We've gotten off to a good start at home in our 2 opportunities. It's been an unbelievable atmosphere from our fans, and we've been very much looking forward to getting back to U.S. Bank Stadium and getting in front of our fans and expecting a great atmosphere. I know there'll be a ton of juice in the building, and we've got to have some good days of preparation. Coming off the bye, had a good short day on Monday. We'll get back in the pads today and continue our prep throughout the week. But this is a very important week of preparation because we're playing one of the best teams in the National Football League. Really good team in all 3 phases. Dan is one of the best coaches in our league, and his team and his staff, everything that they've got going on is going to be a heck of a challenge, and really with how well everybody's playing in our division, these division games are going to be really important.
Yeah, Kevin, touching on the division, which is clearly the best division in the NFL this year, all 4 teams with at least 4 wins, the first time that's ever happened since the realignment of the league when they went to 8 divisions of 4 teams, that 4 teams after 6 weeks would have at least 4 wins. So pretty remarkable how the division is playing, and all as the Vikings were on a bye last week, all the other teams were rolling. The Packers, the Bears, and the Lions, and especially that Detroit team who dismantled Dallas and intercepted Dak Prescott a couple times. Of course, the Cowboys were missing Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. That's a big loss for them, but Detroit, very impressive heading into this game. Dan Campbell, he's got a lot of respect for what he's seen from this Vikings team this year.
5-0 at their place, 1-0 in the division for these guys, and active, opportunistic defense. Ball hawks. 11 takeaways. They're just they're playing at a high level. Pretty good personnel. Grenard and Van Ginkel have been excellent for him. Cashman. And then certainly, Harrison's still back there, and Bynum's coming on, and Metellus, I think a lot of, and Pace is doing a hell of a job. A lot of good guys are active back there. Flores is doing a great job with them. So active defense, it really starts with them because these takeaways are really kind of fueling this team right now. And then offensively, as we all know, Justin Jefferson, he carries a big hat for them. They're going to find a way to get him the ball. He gets explosives. He's got run after catch. He can run the whole route tree. We have firsthand experience with him. Just because you double him doesn't mean it's over. You got to find a way to body him up and that's what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put bodies on him.
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell, he understands the secret sauce for the Vikings this year have been those takeaways, and he underestimated it. He said only 11 takeaways. There's 13 takeaways, actually. Sorry, Dan Campbell. Right. 11 interceptions, that leads the NFL. 13 takeaways, which is second in the league. And that has been certainly a big part of the success. And a big key this week is to win that turnover battle. What we've seen so far this year, when the Vikings outrush the other team, which they've done every game, and when they're either even or better in the turnover ratio, they're winning games. They've won every game with that formula. And it's going to be tough this week because Detroit is one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. They rank fourth, but the Vikings' run defense is second in the league. I think that's the biggest matchup, shall we say. And I'm not going to say it's the only key to the game because there's so many subplots to this game. The Vikings receivers against the Detroit secondary that could be suspect. No Aiden Hutchinson in this game. The Lions missing their best pass rusher, broke his leg last week. That's a huge loss for Detroit. But if the Vikings are missing Cashman, missing Aaron Jones, big losses for them too. Is TJ Hawkinson going to return this week? Perhaps. He's practicing on a limited basis, and his window is open right now. Are they going to bring him back against his former team? And also the team that hurt him last year, too, by the way, with a cheap shotter Kirby Joseph at safety, who went right at his knees. So we'll see how that all plays out. Before we hear from Aaron Jones, Sam Darnold, and check out a few highlights of that Detroit prolific offense and pretty good defense at times, I want to talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. It's time to take the field in an SUV that's designed to be unstoppable in every pursuit. That's the all-new 2024 GMC Acadia. From its reimagined interior to its bold, capable exterior, Acadia is suited up so you can make winning drives wherever they may lead. Whether it's at home or away, your team will enjoy the ride in comfort with 3 rows of spacious seating for 7. Plus, Acadia comes standard with other winning features like heated front seats, remote start, and a 2.5-liter engine with a GM estimated 328 horsepower. Or take yours to the championship level with available amenities like a panoramic sunroof or an off-road tuned suspension. Don't sit on the sidelines any longer. Test drive your new 2024 GMC Acadia today. Available now at your Select Minnesota GMC dealers. Aaron Jones, we just talked about him, and he, I think, is a key, one of the big keys to this game. If they can get him on the field, he's made a difference. When he was out in the second half against the Jets, the Vikings running game somewhat disappeared. And last year, the first matchup with Detroit was rather abysmal running the ball. The Vikings were outrushed 143-17 in that game. Oof. Now, Nick Mullins threw for 396 yards or whatever he did, very close to 400, but he also threw 4 picks. And a big part of the problem was they couldn't run the ball. So that's going to be a big, important factor in this game. And as you said, they picked up Cam Akers. Ty Chandler had some success in the second meeting with the Lions. But here is Aaron Jones talking about what he's got to do to get back.
Definitely. I just kind of lean on the trainers, agent, family when it comes to making that decision, coaching staff, teammates, and they all have my best interest in mind. So just you got to take it day by day, continue to see how it feels. We still have all the way till Sunday, but at the end of the day, I feel like they're going to make the best decision for me. And whether that's I'm out there, that's my goal, to be out there on Sunday, or I'm not. But I plan to be out there.
So we talked before about the critical matchup: Vikings run defense, second ranked against the Lions, fourth ranked rushing offense, with that two-headed monster, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. If they can run the ball, that sets up their play-action game for Jared Goff, who's got plenty of excellent receivers to throw to, led by Ross St. Brown, and Jameson Williams is off to a really good start as a deep threat. has 3 touchdowns, a 22-yard average. Sam Laporta, a Pro Bowl tight end. Laporta's numbers and St. Brown's numbers are down this year, but I think part of that was the Lions struggled in the first couple games, and Goff threw several interceptions. But the last 2 games against Seattle and Dallas, he has been outstanding. He's had almost a perfect passer rating, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's obviously going to be a key, that they can put some pressure on him, force him to make those turnovers. Cam Bynum having a really good year for the Vikings, a safety. He's their second leading tackler, also tied for the team lead in interceptions and passes defense, 2 interceptions, 5 passes defense. Cam talked this week about the Lions facing that offense that's very talented.
Yeah, really just consistent. You see his numbers, the completion percentages, just efficient football and good football, and that's why they've been winning games. And it's looking forward to it as a competitor, being able to go against that.
How tough is the balance that they have within their offense, the different ways they can attack?
Yeah, they have weapons everywhere, really good receivers, really good running backs, good quarterback. So really across the board, it's a complete team. And I know we've been against some complete teams so far this season, so this is just one of those games that you know is going to be a battle going into it, but this is exactly what we're looking for, two of the best teams in the league going at it.
Let's check out a highlight from that big win over Dallas for Detroit, and here's kind of a crazy play, kind of a sandlot play, shall we call it, where Sam Laporta scores on a long touchdown catch.
Get into that in a second. Oh, here's a little trickery. Straight Brown, back to Goff. Flea flickers, got Laporta. Wide open! Sam Laporta, foot race towards the end zone, diving, touchdown! Unreal!
Pretty cool play call by Ben Johnson. I think one of the really fascinating, again, subplots to this game, Brian Flores, that frenetic blitzing defense. I think they're second now in blitz rate in the league, over 40%, going against Ben Johnson, one of the top offensive coordinators in the league. I think these 2 guys are probably, if you had to say who's the coordinators of the year, these 2 guys may be the 2 guys right now. And I think that sets up as just a really interesting chess match with those guys, as well as on the other side of the ball with Kevin O'Connell going against Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator. And Sam Darnold talked about that Lions D.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job of mixing, different coverages, but making it look like a lot of coverages at the same time. And they like to, bring a lot of different pressures from different looks. So you just got to be ready for everything, and be able to have an answer versus everything. And I think they do a really good job. Obviously they have really good scheme, but the guys that they have on defense make it come to life. And it's fun to watch on tape, but we're excited for the challenge.
When you talk about the Vikings defense and what they've been able to do this year, 20 sacks and second in the league on a per sack basis, per game basis, the getting pressure on Goff is obviously critical in this game, and certainly Dan Campbell referred to Grenard, Van Ginkel, throw Dallas Turner into the mix, and the entire blitzing group of Viking defenders, and I think it just sets up as a fascinating match because I think Detroit has the best offensive line in the league. And you talk about great players led by the All-Pro center, Frank Ragnow, here from Chanhassen, Minnesota. Penei Sewell, one of the best tackles in the league. They are loaded on that offensive line. It's going to be a really great matchup to see how they handle the Vikings in terms of the pass rush. Last year, now, of course, we're talking different personnel. Mm-hmm. Daniil Hunter was here, DJ Wanham, not Grenard, not Van Ginkel, not Turner, and not Blake Cashman, who may not be there again this time. But in those 2 games, the Vikings were only able to sack Goff once in each game and had only 3 quarterback hits on him in each game. And now compare that to what Detroit did to Nick Mullins. They hit him 15 times in the second game and sacked him 4 times. And as I said, threw 6 interceptions. So, but we have to qualify that by saying half of those quarterback hits were by Hutchinson.
Yes.
So you take him out of the equation, and it's a totally different defense for Detroit. And I think what it's going to mean is that Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, is going to throw more blitzes at Darnold, try to put more pressure on him. He's got to get the ball out a little quicker than he did against the Jets, where he took a lot of sacks, 4 sacks, took 7 hits. Got to get that ball out quick. So we'll see how Kevin O'Connell schemes this up to get the ball to Jefferson on quick throws. And again, a key is, can you run the ball? Can you set up play action and then take shots down the field to Jefferson, to Addison, to Naylor? Will Hawkinson make it back, or Johnny Munt made a big catch against the Jets? So I think all those things really set up as a fascinating part of the game. And one of the Detroit's really key players, and Kevin O'Connell talked about his pre-draft visits with Brian Branch, a safety from Alabama, and that he is certainly one of the key guys on that defense that's going to have to do more without Hutchinson. Brian Branch had a nice interception in that Dallas game. Here it was.
And they're passing the ball on every down.
Pressure here, 4th down, eye over the middle, and it's intercepted for the second time today. It's Branch again. Brian Branch looking for the end zone. He is tackled inside the 5.
He's a heck of a player, but those corners, I think they're a little suspect, and especially if Carlton Davis doesn't play. I don't think he's a great player anyway. He's a good player that they made a move to get. Terry and Arnold, they drafted in the first round. As I said, he's had a lot of penalty issues. That Detroit pass defense can be had as long as Darnold's got some time to throw, and so that's a key on the protection. And when we talked about all those hits that Mullins took in those 2 games, part of the problem was Brian O'Neill didn't play in either game last year against Detroit. So he'll be there ready to go this week. That'll be a much better situation for him, definitely, and for the Vikings defense. Let's hear again from our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade. GMC. Well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR for 36 months on GMC Sierra light-duty models. See your local GMC dealer today. Monthly payment is $28.16 for every $1,000 you finance. Average example down payment 15%. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/24.
Some of the numbers in this game as going into the game, Lions number 3 offense in the league, Vikings 17th on offense, but productive when they need to be. Lions 4th best passing game, 4th best running attack. But both teams score points, and part of that is the Vikings defense has scored some points. Van Ginkel with his 2 pick sixes. Vikings are 6th in scoring. The Lions number 1 team in scoring, 30.2 points per game. Goff's only been sacked 10 times this year. Darnold's been sacked 15 times. Vikings are +4 in that all-important turnover ratio. And as we said, ranking high in takeaways, leading the league in interceptions with 11. Lions are +6. So they're a team that does force some takeaways, but they've also only given up the ball 4 times. So they do a good job of protecting the ball. And on defense, the Vikings, number 2 rush defense, the Lions are number 3. So stands to reason the 2 passing defenses, Vikings 30th, but part of that is that they've been way ahead in some games and the other teams have had to throw. Lions 27th against the pass. Vikings with those 20 sacks, which ranks 2nd in the league on a per-game basis. The Lions have 15, but half of their sacks came from Aiden Hutchinson, who is out for the year now. Special teams are always going to be a big factor in a game, and Will Reichard and Jake Bates of the Lions are both perfect on field goals this year. Reichard 9 for 9. Actually, both of them 9 for 9. Reichard is 3 for 3 from 50+. Bates has not attempted any 50+ kicks this year. And Bates does have one missed field goal. Riker has none, and Ryan Wright's been punting well. But I think a key too, and I'm sure it's something that the Vikings, that Kevin O'Connell and the coaching staff talked about coming out of the bye, and even in the couple days they worked before the bye, try to cut down on the penalties. Special teams penalties were a problem against the Jets. They had the block in the back on Jay Ward that helped set up a 31-yard punt return. Got to do better in those areas. And, of course, they had the roughing the punter call. That was a big play in the game, too.
Absolutely.
And I think those are the things they want to clean up. They also want to clean up the pre-snap penalties. Blake Brandel's played really well this year. He's got 5 false starts in 5 games.
Right.
He's got to hold his water a little bit better. And so I think those are some of the keys to the game. Okay, Sam, let's get to our picks here. We're going to pick this game, and then we're going to look around the league a little bit, too.
Yeah. Jeff, I don't know. I've been stewing on this one all week. It's tough. I mean, I think the Vikings right now, as we're going into Sunday, the Vikings are slightly the better team against Detroit. And honestly, that's just because Detroit lost Aiden Hutchinson for the season. I mean, the defense for Detroit is going to be reeling, and I understand it's the next man up sort of mentality. But that's a huge spot to fill, and I don't know that Detroit's going to have the answers for that loss. So I think the Vikings will do what they've done all season, jump out to an early lead. I don't think it'll be as wide of a gap as it has been in some of these other games. And then it's just a matter of holding on to it. And this one will probably be the closest game I think the Vikings have had all season. This is going to be their true test. I see this being like a 21-20. Vikings just eke it out. I mean, you could say 23-24 because there probably will be more field goals involved than touchdowns, but it's just going to be so close, Jeff. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a tough one to call in a lot of ways, and I think what's interesting too, you're talking about 2 of the top 10 teams in points allowed defensively, and the Vikings are 3rd in points allowed. Detroit is 8th. Both teams allowing less than 20 points a game. Vikings only 15 a game. But I think this is going to be higher scoring than that. I really do. I think that you've got 2 offenses that can move the ball. Detroit's offense is just outstanding. And even though the Vikings are playing opportunistic defense, the Lions don't give the ball away very readily. But we have seen Goff have games. I remember Thanksgiving last year against the Packers. He lost 3 fumbles in that game. So it can happen. Possible. We'll see. What worries me for the Vikings from their standpoint are these injuries. You come out of the bye and you're thinking, oh, you should be really healthy. And all of a sudden, Cashman's on the injury report. Pat Jones is on the injury report. Aaron Jones, we knew was hurt going into the bye. And Harrison Phillips showed up on the injury report. Now, he was back at practice limited today, but he's a really important guy up front to try to stop that Detroit run that we talked about is so important. So Hawkinson, too, will he make it back? I think there's too many ifs for the Vikings. I think that Lions offense is so prolific that it can maybe overcome somewhat the loss of Hutchinson. I think in the final analysis, it may be their undoing that keeps them out of the Super Bowl. And I picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year. I don't pick them to go to the Super Bowl without Aiden Hutchinson necessarily. But I think that Detroit is going to eke this one out, and I'm going to call it 30-27. I think it's going to be a fairly close game.
Sure.
And I think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game. But I certainly hope I'm wrong, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong.
Right.
So let's look around the league here in the last minute or so. The Bears are on their bye this week, 4-2. The Packers 4-2 have a tough matchup with the Texans, but it's in Green Bay, and I like Jordan Love the way he's been playing lately. I think that they'll beat Stroud in the battle of the 2 young quarterbacks. Atlanta and Kirk Cousins have won 3 straight. Seattle's lost 3 straight. So I like Atlanta in that game in Atlanta. The Jets gave Aaron Rodgers what he wanted in Devontae Adams, but I don't think it's going to be enough with that offensive line being shaky. I think the Steelers will win on Sunday night.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Steelers beat the Jets on Sunday night in Pittsburgh. A good Monday night game. The hot Ravens, 4 straight wins against the Bucs, both co-leaders in the division. I like the Ravens to win a tough road game. And the second best game this weekend, behind the Vikings and the Lions, the Super Bowl rematch, Kansas City goes to San Francisco. I think it's a bigger game for the 49ers trying to get over 500. The Chiefs receivers are still a little shaky after losing Rashee Rice. So I'm going to pick, even though I hate to pick against Patrick Mahomes anytime, I'm going to pick San Francisco in that game. And how about this? A Vikings win and a Chiefs loss, and the Vikings would be the only undefeated team left in the NFL.
Isn't that something?
That would be amazing and certainly hard to imagine before the season. So this has been Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2024 GMC Acadia and Sierra on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. This is Jeff Diamond with Sam Bird. We will talk to you on Monday, when we will break down this exciting matchup for first place between the Vikings and the Lions.